Very, very interesting conversation on the question on energy and its interlinkages and connection with climate change. Zeynab joins us now from the KICC. Zeynab, good evening. How was that conversation? I caught bits of it. How was that conversation? Please talk to us to it.
Thank you, James Matt. We are still live at the Ministry of Energy. We just concluded some rich discussions on the impacts of climate change on energy generation, and we heard from the CS of Energy, Davis Chirchir, and also Kenya Power, explaining why Kenyans suffered the blackout that we did and why it took so long to fix that blackout, and what measures are being put in place to reduce any such occurrences. This is part of the discussions of the Africa Climate Summit, which focuses on green growth and is very big on energy transition, green energy transition at a cost-effective way for the African people. And so these discussions at the Ministry of Energy was to build onto that, talking about the impacts of climate change on Kenya in terms of energy generation and what Kenya is doing to fix that problem. And so to put this matter into perspective, I'd like to call Paul Ngugi, the CEO of GDC, who's here with us at the Ministry of Energy, to put a little bit of perspective into this. Hi, Mr. Ngugi.
Hi to you.
So, GDC, you do a lot of this geothermal power generation, and geothermal has been touted as a solution, as a climate solution for Kenya. How is it providing the solution?
Thank you very much, Zainab. First of all, geothermal is green, and all of us are trying to deal with the issue of climate change. So how we actually become a solution provider in this particular situation, the first thing is that we are providing transition from fossil fuel to renewable energy. Just to give you a perspective is that if you use geothermal, you're actually reducing green gases, or rather there's the green gases by about 99%. That is in comparison with fossil fuel. So in that particular way, when we actually then be able to mitigate in the way of cutting the green gases. The other approach, the other way we are actually managing this is that we are providing also a solution in terms of managing hydropower. The country in the last, probably in the last about 10 or 15 years, every third year, we are actually having drought. And as much as hydropower in the past was the backbone of our electricity sector, today hydropower is actually considered a reliable power. Yes. And therefore, geothermal is coming in as baseload to replace hydropower, and therefore to provide a solution, especially by giving us reliable power.
Yes. I'm sorry to cut you short. We're running a bit of time. We also need to hear from Peter Njenga, the MD and CEO of KenGen. Mr. Njenga, just come closer to me. Thank you. Mr. Njenga, just very briefly, what are your thoughts on the Africa Climate Summit and how is KenGen fitting in there?
Thank you very much, Zainabu. We actually very happy to be involved in this conversation of the climate change. And as in KenGen, we are actually the leading institution in ensuring that we get to the 100% green energy in Kenya. Currently, we are doing about 87% green energy. And our journey is that perhaps by 2030, we should be at 100% of green energy. So we are actually very happy to be involved in that, and we want to assure Kenyans that we are going to develop the next projects in the pipeline to be purely green energy. Yes.
Thank you very much. Unfortunately, we have to leave that discussion there. Maybe we can talk some more offline. James, these conversations on energy is just one of the things that Kenya is doing to move this conversation on the Africa Climate Summit forward, focusing on this green transition and using geothermal as an example of how green energy transition can look like, including electric vehicles. But tomorrow is the last day of the summit. We'll also be there to give you the inside scoop of what the Nairobi Declaration says and what it means for Africa. James.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Zeynab. If you're not pressed for time, that will be a fantastic conversation to continue listening on. But first now, let's take a short break for business.